Is very well done, and it looks legal that way. It looks, but making it a mandate, they'll get what we can agree on. As you hear them talking, well, we can all agree. You'll hear that.
The children.
We can all agree. We can all agree on these things. But what they're not telling you is what they're going to do behind the scenes with them. I understand their methodology, and
I don't
it's
think you
subtle.
can. Like, I think the whole gun confiscation, as far as them going door to door, and that's not going to happen. First of all, that's stupid.
No.
It's suicidal.
That would be like.
But they did
jumping
it. They've done it.
Well, they might do it to some people. They do it to drug dealers.
What if there's a big quake here? You think they'd do
That would
it?
be going, like, jumping in with a bunch of pit bulls with pliers and going, I'm going to pull their teeth around. Let's go after them.
You can't. What I think is going to happen is they're psychologically going to condition the public to not want to own guns. And for those people who do own them, yes, they'll do things like ammunition
look
control.
like the illegal move by the newspaper publishing. That was a criminal act that the newspaper published lawful gun owners with licenses to conceal carry for good reason, because if you conceal carry, you have to put forth reason, you have to be trained. And then the newspaper just publishes them ad hoc and ad lib, just kind of throws it out there. And one guy had his house broken into and a gun because they put his name out there. That's liability that he can sue them and get the money back. And not only that, shut them down. It was totally irresponsible. Whoever did that is not thinking. They're you know, we should publish his address and say he's a publisher that publishes people's addresses arbitrarily on a whim based on politispeak.
Yeah, but that's fighting fire with fire, and we can't do that.
We're not doing
We're
that.
not going to do that.
I'm not doing that. I'm saying that would be the response if we fought them according to their ways. Unfortunately, we realize how stupid that really is, and would never do something like that.
This is how it works. In Oakland, right after that shooting happened, I think 200 people turned in their firearms. This is Oakland, where the police do not respond to burglaries. Those people need guns. I don't need a gun.
They probably got paid.
I live in a safe environment.
And so do I. I mean, even right here, this is a safe environment. And even without a gun, I could hurt somebody. I mean, I have certain things I learned in the military, and I'm not Mr. Tough. I'm not going around saying, come and bring it on. No, I'm not an idiot. It's just I know certain things that'll protect me, and if I have to, I can kill, but that's not what I'm thinking in my mind. Oh, I want to kill that dude. Oh, look how I want to, that's not a normal mindset.
That's how young kids are thinking today.
Well, there is a thug, the ancient thug, is that thug type of mentality where they're out to impress people with how bad they are. It's an impressionary so that they can set turf. When you do something like that, you're putting forth your manhood and your power. And some of them are pretty good at it. My son can do that very well. I mean, he's 6'7" nearly, and nearly 300 pounds.
21 years old.
And he's got unearthly strength. He could tell some big buff, even one of these jiu-jitsu dudes. He knows certain little things, and that I've told him what to do. And I said he could hurt them very seriously and quickly. That's all I'm saying. But he's not Mr. Macho. He's a kickback. But he did this little thing that I'm not proud of, in which he was watching out for this young lady in her business, and there was a certain dispute, and he just picked the guy up. Pretty big guy, one-handed, and put him up against the wall and said, is that really necessary? The guy agreed that it wasn't, however that happened. And he told me about it, and I go, don't do that anymore. And he listened to me. But the reality is most kids, and even those who are in gangs, don't understand they're not all powerful. Some of them understand this and vet their actions based on certain areas and certain people they target. They look for weakness, they look for areas where they can gain. And I hate it when police officers get on the television and tell us to be victims. Be a good victim. I think that's the most heinous thing, because criminals look at that and go, ooh. They go up to businesses and say, don't take $100 bills. That's illegal for them to say that because it's vetted legal tender. And if it's legal tender, it's illegal for them to say that. So they cannot tell you, don't take the money. If they told me that, I would tell them, no, you be here, I'm taking the money. I can't refuse legal tender. You have to make it safe where I can do business. That's what you're for. And you will do your job, or I will do mine.
That's the thing with laws in general is, like you said, it creates the victim mentality and the mentality that you are defenseless.
Yes, they tell you,
it's like in the
give
LA
it up,
riots.
give up the wallet.
It's like in the LA riots.
Don't fight them. What logic says to do is defend your wife, defend your community. They're telling you give up your community, and that's why crime increases. Is that very mentality?
Well, my whole take on it is the whole purpose of gun control is so you as a citizen will rely on the system to protect you. The police, the military.
Isn't that the way it is? Yes, you're right. That's
instead
what I'm
of you
saying.
having the ability to do things on your own, whether it's self-defense, whether it's hunting and fishing, whether it's whatever it is, they don't want you to learn to rely on yourself and your family and your friends
That's exactly
for anything. They want you to rely on the system, and the police is the system.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think?
Because it's dependency. It's you especially in the urban areas.
Well, this is a bigger thing based on your book even that you put out, which was, what was the name of that book? We need to put that out there.
Vegetarian Agenda.
The Vegetarian Agenda. It's all a huge move to put
like
people, that's why they put fluoride in the water. This is a big thing. And what they're really doing is making it like a big welfare state. No, it's not totally welfare. But in Brave New World, they want a world kind of like that. Everybody in step. And they want to eradicate the thinkers because that upsets their plans. And they do it sometimes by encouraging them to take a stand. There's lots of ways of doing that. And like us, when they do something, they get people to react. That's what they want, because they want to identify the groups. And then they have a contingency for each group already in place. They just have to get the group to show themselves. And that's one of the things where I rejected Greg in joining his group and doing anything at time. I knew what they wanted. And there's a lot of them that don't go public, that are throughout the United States. And the United States, those who are wanting this, hate it, because they're people that are subtly in the wings waiting for them to do something. And they are within the military, they're within every branch of government, just like their agents, they're everywhere. And they don't know what they're dealing with. They think they do. And when it breaks forth, it's going to be like bedlam and chaos, and they're going to go, oh my, what's this? And then they'll have a contingency for that. But my thought on this is in agreement with you, is that they are making us dependent. That is why if you go in and say, oh no, I don't need electricity, I don't need sewage, I've got a self-composting toilet, I'm generating my own power, and all of a sudden they get where they say, no, you've got to do this. They will force you to do something. And one of the things that I have noted about the building of houses, they're not secure.
Yeah.
Not one house in this United States. The ancients would have said, what are they building all these summer cottages for? Because that's all they are. You can kick the door and it falls open. The windows, there's no security in them whatsoever. And if you talk to anybody who's a movie star, they don't live in houses like that. Or if they do, they ensconce around it security. We live in the most unsecure, that if a nation were to come in here and march and take over, they wouldn't have to go in the house to look for you. All they got to do is go brrr, and everybody in that house would be dead. That's simple. They're not secure. A shooter outside, stray bullet comes through, can kill them.
You go to Oakland or any inner city, you see people getting shot through their windows, and you see bullet holes in doors and walls.
And there is no security. Is that a secure place to put my family? No, that's why I got in apartment complexes hopefully on the second floor to the back. Because bullets, if they're coming up, will avoid at the back, it'll be higher. It'll catch you in the beginnings. You got to think. And Americans have been hoodwinked in buying homes to, it's all about location, location, location. Not the quality of the home that you're being built and that it's secure. And it comes from the 19th century when they built homes out of wood. You know, it was hard to get anything else. But if you notice, most mansions of the wealthy are built of what? Stone. Or, you know, not
Well, a lot of
paste.
it here is they make homes because of earthquakes.
Exactly.
But the thing is that if you
But
go
you
to
can
any
build-
older neighborhood, they're all brick. They're all brick buildings.
Yeah, but the thing is, even a brick or a stone structure can be made secure from earthquakes with materials and how you build them. And, you know, and they don't build houses that way. They won't build them according to good structure and wise thing. Why? Because it keeps people working and keeps jobs in the industries and insurance.
They stay intact for decades. You
Well, they're
go,
built
you go
by
up,
craftsmen.
you go down East 14, take a right, go to those older neighborhoods in San Diego. Those houses, those neighborhoods are almost 100 years old,
And they
they're
were built by
nice.
craftsmen. Because
They're beautiful, well-structured
they're right.
homes.
And they were
And they're
built
not
by,
expensive homes. They're actually one of the cheapest neighborhoods in the Bay Area, but they look nice.
and they're well built.
They're
Now,
well built.
I did see a home up in Oakland, right off of Redwood Road, going up the skyline. I went in and just looked when he was building it, and it was one man building the whole house. Because he wanted to build a house, he said. Everything done. And I looked at everything. He was a craftsman, and even the stairs were built oak banister, stepped, interlaced, perfectly tight. Everything built solid, built for earthquakes, built on a hill, foundation tight. And I thought, whoa, I'd love to own this
It's
home.
an art. It's a work of art.
Yes.
Those homes. So they're every piece, indoors, outdoors, everything.
But the problem is, builders today are not building homes. They're throwing together tract houses. And even if they're building a neighborhood or whatever, they're slapstick. And I mean literally, they're slapping sticks and pasteboard up.
Well,
And
and
they're
put them up in 3 months. my house in Las Vegas was put up in 3 months.
Wow.
And that's
And you could see the walls where the drywall was off kilter, and
Really?
it's
exactly.
like you could tell it was put together like
It's
quickly
called
to sit-
slapstick, and that's not just the comedian slapstick. It's just throwing something together and going, here you go, you got a house. But it's not a home. It's not a place where I would feel secure no more than I would say I can trust my police department since they're telling me, oh, when they come up, just give them everything and just, you know, that means that I'm open target and that if someone's with me, I'm making them open. Now, as I state in one of the posts that I did today, sometimes you're caught and there ain't no way you're going to win. You have to yield. There's times to yield. But by the fact that they say a citizen can't carry a gun, a legal citizen, that means the criminals are going to carry, they carry, and in any system or country or area where there's a freedom for the legal and constitutionally supported populace can carry guns, just like that man did in that Vegas strip where he was in a little restaurant and two men came in with shotguns going, hey, we're big, we're bad, we're here. And you always see, they're not professional people who know how to handle guns. They're doing this. They're just doing effect.
especially if it's a high caliber, it's a powerful caliber weapon.
And
if you hold a gun like this, it's going to shoot back like this, and you're going to hit innocent bystanders.
But that's how they do it in film, though.
And that's
so
the thing with movies.
That's how you know.
And notice is that in movies and
They do all the
television
thing
and
wrong.
music videos, is they make it look like it's such an easy thing to operate.
Yep.
And every time I fire a weapon, it's like it takes skill. It's
You
like
have to
you have
know
to practice
what you're
how
doing.
to use this thing.
And
know?
even to get a gun to work, you don't buy a brand new gun and go out and go, okay, I'm ready. You have to fire at least 300 rounds to get that thing settled in.
That's a lot.
Oh, do you really?
Just to get it going.
See, point
They taught
one.
me
All of a
something.
sudden, what? What? You gotta, yeah.
Is that all weapons or just semi-automatic?
Any weapon you do, you have to vet it.
Well, we can't really
Every
get
weapon
semi.
that's built might have minor flaws. Not You know, each weapon is its own weapon. Just like we're individuals, individual weapons have individual characters. And when you shoot that weapon, you're learning your weapon. And you must learn your weapon. You must be able to tear that thing down and put it back together operationally. Now, the gun that I have a 45. It's a light duty, but it's 45. It's short. It's a personal defense and security weapon. It's made to be concealed. It's a powerful 45, and I'm not going to discuss the gun. I'm not going to pump up a gun right now, especially in this current atmosphere.
Oh.
But out of respect for those who have maybe lost lives, I am respectful of that. I'm a respectful gun owner, and I'm not out there to kill people, and neither does taking my guns away make you safer.
Well, then make sure
or
that you don't...
you outlaw guns, just like in Prohibition, they outlawed alcohol. Did it make crime less? Did it make drunkenness less? No. It made it to where the prices went up and it went underground. Anytime you have something like that, it goes underground, it becomes more dangerous because there are criminal elements that will take advantage of that for profiteering.
That have guns that are probably untraceable.
Exactly. Then guns are untraceable and death is much more prevalent there. And you have to depend on the police, who are overstretched now, as they say. And even if they bring in foreign troops, you cannot loose 40,000 hyenas and chase them down with a couple of pit bulls and go, we'll catch them, we'll surround them and take control.
Well,
that's what the gun issue is about.
Let me just ask both of you this. I'll start with you. Let me just ask you, about, like, do you think that we need stronger gun legislation in this country, in this nation, or in this state?
Like in what regards?
Just to, that guns will save lives. If there's more, just to keep the crazies from getting guns, things like that.
Well, the crazies are going to get guns regardless. People that want something are going to get it. They're going to do what they can to get it. It's the people that are the law-abiding people that mean well. They're the ones that are going to sit there and say, I want to be a good person and not own a gun. It's a psychological thing. They want to make the concept of gun ownership a bad thing. That the very concept of owning a firearm is something bad and something wrong. Once you convince the public of that, a lot of them are going to fall for it. The problem is you got to change the mentality of what it means to own a firearm. And it doesn't help in the media and in entertainment that the concept of gun ownership is only criminals have guns, and drug dealers and thugs, and people in the military have guns. The concept of gun ownership is about self-defense and self-preservation and independence. That's what it's about. It has nothing to do
Absolutely right.
with. It doesn't have to do with sportsmanship. It's actually the reason why it's in the Constitution is because back in the 18th century, it was about forming militias and making sure government
and
does not
protecting
have.
the government from invasion, which we're still susceptible to today. And one of the things that they don't tell you about the Constitution is every male who is a lawful free citizen is to have a stash of ammunition and weapons. Automatics.
That's like
now.
law, right?
It is a law by the Constitution for forming militias when the government is overwhelmed in their
But that wouldn't work for felons, though.
And our government can be overwhelmed. We're powerful, yes. We are not invincible. Believe it. We are. They call us the most powerful nation in the world. We are like Rome. Rome was the most powerful nation in the world. They had the most trained, efficient, and equipped force in the world. If you look at some of the ancient technology they had, they were prepared. Each soldier was trained to maintain 6 square, I think it was yards of area, and they had the phalanx. It was where they would shield up, cover themselves from arrows, and they were strong, and they would incorporate. Yes, but they would incorporate these techniques to overcome the adversary from a position of inferiority to overcome superior forces.
Well,
They were prepared. Now, my point being is that our nation cannot depend on our military alone, and the governments that think know that it is possible, like in World War II, you're overwhelmed by a massive, well-mechanized, well-oiled machine. They don't have to be big. They can be like Alexander and just slaughter people with 40,000 to defeating million-man armies. Ooh, could that happen in the United States? Absolutely. And the thing is, it happened in Vietnam. And you look at the ancient book of war that they talk about. That is the way to wage a war today. And that's the war that would be waged in the United States.
What happened in Vietnam?
Well, like in Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, there was an ancient Chinese war general who said, you don't need a big superior force. You just minor forces with minor strikes
Guerrilla
here
style
and there.
type.
And I forgot his name. I'll have to look it up and bring it up on Hard. Yes, yes. I forgot the name. It's the art of war. Good. Yes. And the thing is, the Japanese said it in World War II. They said if we invade and take over America, there would be a gun behind every blade of grass. And they did not
in a couple
come
years.
here for that.
but that's why they might be here. No.
Well, the thing about it is, and the realities that we're facing today is they're trying to make the public think weapons and guns are killing more people than anything else. The fact of the matter is, and if you check the facts versus the rhetoric of guns, gun deaths are declining. And what the media is doing is, it's just like the noisy wheel or the noisy anything gets the oil. And they're just making a bunch of noise. A minority that speaks loud enough may overcome a majority. And what is really happening is they're circumventing common intelligent thought and trying to replace it with emotion and charge it with the wow, shock and awe factor. And unfortunately, that doesn't lend to thought. And Congress, as you see this new Congress, said, we're going to change this, we're going to make more laws and make it safe. We need to act, as President Obama said. Yes, we do need to act. But however, their actions aren't based on wisdom, they're based on knee-jerk reaction. And I hate to say that, Mr. Obama, President, with all due respects to your position and to Congress, y'all are certainly doing like they did in Prohibition. We do it this way, we'll succeed. However, you're going to create what you're trying to defeat. And that's exactly what will happen. But the reality is, like in Heart Talk, in this open table, we find that true statesmen that vet and look at situations. And like the gentleman that was killed recently, who was part of a rifle building company for years, tied it to drugs and the psychiatric breakdown of people, and local authorities not properly following procedures. Why isn't Congress dealing with that? Why isn't it? Oh, well, I don't know. Congress, why aren't you dealing with that? Why aren't you dealing with the drug companies that are making these mind-altering drugs, who, by their very disclaimers, are saying may cause you to go psychotic? Actually, it's what it's really saying, and where you will either kill yourself or maybe harm others, have mental breakdowns based on how fast you go on or on, and you can't even have an 18-year-old who's depressed to go on these drugs because, well, their mood swings may be too great to contain.
And they put everybody on these drugs.
Exactly.
If
They
I was
tried
to
to
go
put
to
my son on it.
If I went to a
said no.
psychiatrist and said I'm feeling down because of my work situation or my family situation or whatever situation, they'll say, oh, okay, so it seems like you have a little mild case of depression. Why don't I put you on this many milligrams of Paxil or Prozac?
And really what that is deadening your conscience. It's deadening certain parts in the frontal lobe.
It completely
where it messes with your ability to have empathy or compassion. These drugs affect that area. And that's why you see people almost, a friend of mine said they were almost like they were not themselves, kind of catatonic, kind of without feeling. And you hear this from a lot of people going on these drugs. And that means there's an emotionless, have you ever met somebody that was depressed and they went on drugs and they became this kind of unlucid kind of floater? They seem to have, their eyes were just kind of blank. They're kind of emotionless. And I've seen this before where people are just kind of floating. And I think that's not a good state for somebody to be in. And then when you take them off that, it's like a withdrawal reaction, sometimes can turn to violence.
Oh, yeah.
In serious cases, like did with the Aurora case.
Yeah.
I think they gave him medication. He was under a psychiatrist's care, from what I remember. I could be wrong. If I am, send me the correct information. But the problem is not the guns. In the heart of a gun, it's metal. In the heart of man, it's dark. And it's a spiritual battle, and it's a spiritual issue. And one of the big problems the United States is facing, they have sown to the wind and reaped a whirlwind. And where does that come from? Now, I'm spiritualizing it based on the fact that there is judgment on this nation of a spiritual nature, because they've turned their back on a living and creator which came through the Judeo side of Israel, and who is a true living being, and who set laws written down in an ancient document called the Bible. And I believe, like Andrew G. Roth, in the Aramaic text, and there's Greek and everything, but I'm not so much against the other texts. They look at the Aramaic as the prime language which the Savior spoke in. And we see our government turning away from the living Elohim to their own devices, laws, and it says they frame mischief by law. And this is what has brought them to this point of bowing to the results. They have reaped the whirlwind.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's a problem. And they're not facing the reality, because in reality, in the Word, it says, return to me, and I will heal your land. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, I will heal their land. But there were letters sent to Congress and the President in 2007 about turning back to the living God, and they didn't even answer the letters.
well,
Nothing
no, they
came.
don't. They don't care about that.
And they do
have
not
nothing to
care
do with
about
that.
the things of the Spirit.
But-
In fact, they hate it, and they want to destroy it and
But
get
the
away
whole
from
the
it.
whole thing is that we do have guns. Guns
Oh, yeah.
are here. We can't get rid of guns.
Well, the thing is, we have swords too. We have, and there are
Yeah,
more
but guns
deaths
are
by
totally
knives
different.
than there are
Of course, because
by
there's more.
guns.
You know that
Because you
knives
can
and
get
swords are
knives more.
illegal than guns. If you got pulled over by a police officer, they found a knife or a sword or a baseball bat, you're more likely to get convicted of a felony than if you had a firearm.
Well, the reason is they know there are more deaths by knife than by guns, and they know those are. You can conceal it, and it's not illegal to have a knife in your pocket.
Well, let me.
It's no more than 4 inches, right? The blade, that's
Right.
say.
It's 4 fingers basically. Like it has to be up
But
to here.
if you
whatever.
wear it
but
on the outside and it's part of your work, like
then
me,
that's not. Then that's
I
not.
can have
hiding
one
it.
that's
right.
this long. I can carry a sword,
You just have to have it out like how Rambo had it out,
and,
or how
it's
he
got to
should
be
have had it out.
exposed so people can see it and the police can see it.
But let me-
They cannot take your knife away from you. They'll say they can.
If you put it in if you put it where they can't see it, they might. But that's about it.
The thing is,
That's
that's
happened to
illegal
me,
in the
that-
sense of, unless you're a citizen that's known to be a criminal, carrying a knife should not be the issue.
But that's only. But who says
foolishness.
that you're a criminal? It's up to the person.
Well,
it's up to that
the
deputy.
only one
or
that has top
whoever.
authority in any county is the sheriff. Police officers
But the
are
deputies
subordinate.
do too, because the
They do too,
The
exactly.
deputies have,
No,
if they think
they
it's-
are mandated by the Constitution.
Yeah.
The sheriff can deputize as many as he wants, and they're working as the sheriff,
Right.
representing him.
Right.
That's what
But
deputies
they
are.
turned
Well-
the sheriff's departments into police departments because I understand what you're saying. The
That's
sheriff
bad.
is a constitutionally
That's
elected.
bad.
He's the top cop.
But you think that
Constitution-
they're
He can
They're-
tell the
they're-
police in any of his jurisdiction what to do.
But
Here's
you
the
think
crazy
that they're
thing.
taking over?
We did not have police departments prior to 1868.
That's true.
I mean,
What do you mean? Like there was
There were
no
no police
sheriff?
That,
There
as
was
far
the
as I
sheriff.
know, we did not have a police department anywhere in the United
No.
States prior to the Civil War.
That was
So you
the
just had
sheriff.
a sheriff, a deputy.
That's it. You had a
and
sheriff.
he
You
would
had a U.S.
deputize
Marshal.
the posse.
Have you seen a movie, the Quentin Tarantino movie?
No,
Which
no,
one was
I
that?
can't. I can't go through that.
The Django Unchained, the one about the free slave.
The slave,
The
yeah.
Quentin Tarantino movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
With Jamie
with-
Foxx.
that just came out just recently.
The
Yeah, yeah.
movie. Here's the thing with movies. You gotta understand. Movies tell you things.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
If
do.
you're looking for them, they'll tell you the truth.
You can tie it to history.
Yeah.
This movie was set 2 years before the Civil War started. I think it was 1858. Here's the thing. The main character played a bounty hunter. And the bounty hunters back then, if there's a bounty put on you, there was a
bounty hunter
warrant
can go after you.
said wanted by the United States of America. They didn't say the government. They said the United States of America, separate entity, dead or alive. I mean, they could kill you because you were a sovereign.
Yeah.
So
As a
What do you
bounty
mean?
hunter-
What do you mean you were a sovereign? What is?
Well,
what is
you know,
you
like,
might be able to explain it better.
have you seen the dog, the bounty hunter? He has authority. He doesn't need a warrant. He doesn't need anything. If he has a bounty on you, he's paid by everybody he brings in. So, if he goes out and he gets licensed as a bounty hunter, you have to go through a process. Once you are a bounty hunter and you're given the go get this guy, bring him in, that means he's jumped bail. He has broken the mandates of the court, which were apprised to that person for whatever law they broke. As a bounty hunter, he doesn't have to account to anybody, the police, the sheriff, or anybody. In fact, they must assist him. But he's good. Dog, you're excellent bounty
My whole
hunter.
theory on race is it's not race, it's class. Black
Yes,
and white
exactly.
does not represent
Exactly.
people of ethnic or racial backgrounds. It represents people of class.
Right.
Black means underclass, white means overclass. That's all it means.
Well,
Meaning
that's
that
what they
they're-
want you to think.
That's but that's what it
that's
really
how
means.
Dick Gregory
Because
uses
if you
that
think
word.
about
That's, and it's
the same thing.
psychological, but it's
Because
not a truth
poor
of that.
white people are considered put on the same level as black people are.
Yes,
and
they are.
rich, educated black people are put on the same level as white people.
Exactly.
But
It's
isn't
nothing
that
to do.
just-
And me
It's
being
nothing
of
to
an
do with
ethnic
color.
group that is on the upper strata of society, we're not seen as the same type of minorities as people on the lower strata. So
Yes,
it really
correct.
is about class. It's about socioeconomic class. It's
Well,
nothing to do with skin color or ethnic
It's
background.
about,
at all.
it's called the royal rule.
But that's how they make a caste system, right? I
Exactly.
Well, there
and-
is a
races are
so,
caste.
So
Well,
races
religions
are,
the
are caste.
understanding
So
is
that's
ethnic
why
groups
when
are
we say
caste.
these words, we shouldn't be saying them
Why do you
because
think they
then
taught
we're
in
contributing
hip-hop
to that
music?
caste.
Speaking up and correcting the improprieties and the inconsistencies of these statements that people make.
Why is it in hip hop music they have taught every child to use the word nigga to refer to another person? Because that word does
But
not
now you have
mean
white people
black
saying
or
it.
African American people.
Yeah.
It means people of a class.
Yes.
Right.
It has nothing to do with race. It's a class distinction. Anyway,
Yeah,
But
we're
what is
diverting
what
from
is
what
the?
we're talking
Yeah, I
about.
know we're getting off
Let's
into
get
a
off
lot
the-
of things.
Let's get
but
back to the point.
Anyway, the
The
only
whole-
reason I brought it
look,
up,
the
only reason I
whole-
brought it
the-
up
I'm sorry.
was that the bounty hunter prior to 1868 could shoot a man and say, well, you're wanted dead or alive, as
That's
compared
right.
to
He didn't have to do
today
anything.
where you are not a sovereign. When you're a sovereign, you're free. If they want you dead, they want you dead. Now, because you are not a sovereign, you're property of the government through maritime admiralty law. Now, again, I don't know everything about this, so I'm not going to claim to be
The
an
thing
expert.
is,
I could
a
be
bounty hunter can kill. He has license to
still
kill.
to this day,
He does. If you resist and present a resistance, they don't kill you instantly. They will not. But if you present a danger to them to where they have to, then it's, they have exactly. They do have license to kill if they come at you with a gun, well, you're going to shoot back. If they die, that goes with the territory of that felon putting himself in that position to be killed. It's not the bounty hunter's fault, because he knows it's a bounty hunter coming to get him, and they know. Anybody who's in the prison system knows a bounty hunter.
Who
can
puts
kill you.
out that bounty?
No, what happens is when you jump bail, and it is a felony charge.
Okay.
Any felony that requires you to be at court and face your conviction.
So they
or
hire a
court,
private person
They will
to
hire a
do
bounty
this,
hunter to go after you.
which is a
You
private citizen, right?
No, you're vetted. You have to understand.
But
yes,
you're not a part of the
private
government. You're a private
no,
citizen,
wait.
just like
you
us.
have to understand something. It's a little different.
Okay.
A bounty hunter doesn't just say, "Hey, I'll go get him." there's a process that you go
He's
through.
trained by
You're trained.
the government. I mean,
It's private.
it's a private thing,
but
right?
Yes, it is.
So
but it isn't, and it's not easy just to say, "Oh, I'm going to be a bounty hunter."
it's just
bail
training.
bondsman that hires them.
Yes,
Bounty.
exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly where it comes from.
That
It's
is
the
kind of like
bail
a,
bondsman, and they'll make sure you're trained and that you do. See, they look for somebody who can get the job done to save their assets. It's an asset-driven thing. A bounty
Well,
hunter.
why don't they
is
hire
to save
the
assets.
cops to do that?
A lot of ex-cops.
Isn't that
A
what they're?
lot of cops do
But I
this
mean,
as
why
a-
not hire the cops that are working?
Because
No,
they're
you gotta
limited.
They'd be retired.
Why? I mean, why not-
You can't be a bounty hunter and a cop because
Why
that
not?
conflicts.
Shouldn't the cops be the real bounty hunters?
Yeah, well, yes, they are. They're the ones that are going after the guys and are supposed
Why
to
would
get
you
them.
want private citizens doing that, but you don't want them
Because
to have
that's
guns?
an extra arm that they can use to get you, and it is bequeathing to them police power or the power of license to kill and to bring in. But the attitude is not to bring them in dead, but if they have committed X number of crimes and they have to be identified as a menace to society too. There are those who are described, and certain cities
That was
have
a great
crews. Now, certain cities, this is not talked about much. LA had one. There are others that are specific teams that, if they're career criminals, they have known to commit murder and mayhem to the society, and then they're marked. If they fall back into their old ways, these officers are trained to not arrest them. They are to be executed. There's no question about it. Those in prison know what I'm talking about. If you career criminals know, you know what I'm talking about, and they're out there. So you think it's a free, and there are some people that'll make a gang member wear a diaper. And these things are out there. There's some people that live for this, to take the evil down because of the evil that was inflicted on them by maybe a gang member or something. And then they grow up and they're
Well, let's
really just a force to deal with. Well, but let me get to the point. The point is there were hired crews that go out and wait. They get intel on him and follow him everywhere he goes, and then, or she. And when he goes in to do his crime, they just come and wait and then take him out because he's going to fight. They know it, and they'll just take him out by his own ways. They learn, they profile, they know them. And there are many crews out there that do this, and that'll work for the government, that want to remove embarrassments or problems that are stirring up trouble. Politicians will get involved sometimes and say, "This
You're talking
must
about
stop."
like a Blackwater or something like a private security
No,
force.
this
that's
is not.
contract-
No,
Or
no.
this is
This
totally
is
under-
police. This is
Oh, this
police.
is
It's police.
the police officer.
It's police crews. It's specially selected officers that are made by their integrity and strength and their abilities to go after career criminals who will go back to crime. And after a certain point,
But how do
where
you
they
know?
understand.
How do they know they will go back to crime?
Well, the system.
know.
The system.
Let me ask you a
They don't
question.
know.
Yes, they do. And certain people, for example, you get a guy that's killed 20 people, but he gets paroled. And he's kind of like the serial killer.
He's probably hooked into the government or something.
And-
How would he get parole 20 times?
Maybe.
Well, it's legal. It's a legal
He knows
mistake.
people.
You know, you
And-
fuck
yeah,
with the
it's
evidence
20?
or something like that.
I mean, come on, that's a lot.
No, I mean, this is how the court system, this is how the legal system works. So if the police mishandle evidence, you could be guilty as hell. But if you can't prove it, if it's not admissible in court, and the jury's not
Will
going
they
to believe
tamper
it,
with evidence like
yeah.
that?
Well, no, just a cop could have just messed up the evidence.
That's true.
Like in the O.J. Simpson trial, they admitted that they screwed up the evidence.
That's
They
right.
could have tried him for murder, but if you can't prove it in court, the jury, they have jury instructions.
They had too many people
You
rolling all
don't
over
think that
everything.
was a setup?
I
The
don't know.
whole
I mean, I just
OJ
think
trial?
that
I mean,
what you're talking
the timing was strange.
is the concept of you have a black ops type
Black ops
department in
person,
every
yeah.
police department.
And they do not talk publicly about this. There are some there. And they are necessary because they know that
But it's hard to
certain
approve.
criminals-
It's hard to
no,
prove.
No.
How could I
Wait,
prove
wait,
it as
wait.
a lawful citizen?
Let me put it to you this way. There are some people whose life is crime. We don't like to think about that, but their life is made to go out there, rape, pillage, do what they want.
How is that possible?
Incorrigibles.
Don't they have a soul? Don't they have a conscience?
Some do not. Some do
That's
not
an
care.
interesting topic. I listened to this guy named Thomas Sheridan. He's an author.
But I haven't read anything.
He's written a book on psychopaths, and I've heard another guy I met in Las Vegas. The same thing is that they're individuals that do not have a conscience. They're genetically. It's a genetic.
That's what David Icke talks about.
Yes.
Same thing.
Well, that's what his take on the reptilian theory is, that there's no such thing as reptilians. It's
Right.
humans. It's people that have a reptilian mindset. They're psychopaths. They don't have a
They're
conscience.
like the predator that's just looking
They're
for prey.
they're like a humanoid that doesn't have the ability to develop empathy and
Empathy
consciousness
or compassion.
And it's interesting. I want to read this book. You can look him up on YouTube. He's actually a good
What's his
speaker.
name?
His name is Thomas Sheridan, and he wrote a book on psychopaths. He says 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 22 people is a psychopath. It's a clinically labeled psychopath.
And
you
some
could-
people could go either way. I'll tell you, when I grew up, I was amazed at myself because I was an emotionless child. I would be I'd cry occasionally. I rarely cried. And I still have the difficulty. But when I became redeemed, it opened up that part, I don't know how, of compassion. But I could have been one of those because I had anger against everything evil, the way I perceived it. And I didn't want to go rape girls or steal or anything, but I was hating those who did that, instead of seeing them as humans in need of compassion. Now that came through the Bible and the gift of the Spirit. But I could have.
You
turned
really
out
have
to-
compassion for people like that? It's hard to have
Well,
compassion
it is
for them.
that
I
we
think
are
they fall
we are
into
to
what
love
Sonny
our
was
enemies.
saying.
It doesn't mean we
But they're not
excuse them all the
people.
time.
They're not even-
We
there's
have to
something
follow
wrong.
basic guidelines for removing evil from our society.
Yeah, but the
and the
person
thing
who
is,
has
our
done
government
it-
today is removing those boundaries, and that's the problem.
Well, that's this guy's theory, is that the elites we talk about,
Yeah.
there's theories that they're reptilians and they're this and that. They're psychopaths. What they are is people that the psychopaths have this ability to seek out like-minded individuals and collaborate with them. And throughout the centuries, that's what these guys did. And in Babylon, the Babylonians created the psychopathic cultural mindset, and they did it through religion and politics and government and banking, and they basically pretty much brainwashed
What
the
they're
entire
doing-
human race.
but we have to
think,
understand-
even if you're not a psychopath, to think along those lines.
Well, the thing is, now I'm glad you brought that up, because today, through television, radio, newspaper, media, print media, iPhones, and all of this, they're setting the area up, and they're using RF environments which affect the brain. They're using low frequency communications, which can, by the nature of it, your brain is a transceiver, and they know it. You have a signature, electromagnetic signature that you are. That just like a ship can be identified by its electromagnetic signature, and they would degauss ships because they want to erase that sometimes. I'm getting too far afield here. I've got to be careful. I don't want to say things I don't need to be saying. But the reality is we do have
want to
a
take a break
signature
soon.
and a frequency
Yeah.
that we operate on. And they can identify individuals by this means, even by satellite. And those things are there. If I die tomorrow, y'all know I'm pretty much on track, right?
But you will never kill yourself, right?
No.
You
And
will
if
never
they do
commit
kill
suicide?
me, and even if they kill me and all of us, and kill everybody who understands this world as it is, they will lose still. The new world order will fall to the true world order. It's inevitable, and they know it in the back of their minds. But in their consciousness, they cannot conceive of it. They thought, it's impossible. This creator thing can't be. Who can be everywhere instantaneously and know everything? To them, it's impossible. But this world could not exist unless such a being existed. There is no such thing as evolution.
You don't
They
think
know
it came out of nothing?
Yeah.
Something out of
Well,
nothing?
no, ex nihilo is what happened. We did come out of nothing. There is nothing that is visible and here today that was present before the creation. It was all created at the moment.
But still,
at a
nobody's
specific
ever going to
point in
prove
time.
it. No one's ever going to know until we're dead.
Well, until
Never
he
gonna
comes
know.
back and shows them. And they don't believe it. They believe he's some kind of alien they can fight. Unfortunately, they're wrong. Satanic forces think they can, delude people on earth to think they can fight against this superior King of Kings and Lord of Lords who has all power and is the foundation of all life. All life. He sustains it, not anything else. And I thought one time, don't they get that? Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't like it.
Maybe they'll get it later. You never know.
They may. But hopefully some of you out there will read the Word and learn from the Word, and then maybe He'll open your eyes to see the truth. Without that, you're hopeless. Believe it or not. And it sounds very dire, and it is, but that's the truth.